Welcome, everybody. It's time once again for the next chapter with Charlie Hedges, as he explores turning the page on his life and yours.
Hi there, all, and welcome to the next chapter with Charlie. I want to tell you, we have a special guest today with Becca Eve Young. Becca is a former corporate strategist turned soulful storyteller and devoted, quite simply, to the art of becoming. Her debut book, It's Gonna Get Messy, check this out, has received brilliant reviews on Amazon. It's received like 98% of the ratings have been 5-star ratings, and that is unique. And it's all about her story that is rooted in ditching societal scripts you have learned throughout your life to become your most soulful and authentic self. So with that, let's bring Rebecca. Sorry, people probably make that mistake all the time. Let's bring Becca Eve Young on the show. Becca, finally, welcome to the next chapter with Charlie.
Yay! Oh, so good to connect with you again. And thank you, Charlie, for the lovely introduction. I am very happy to be here chatting with you and the audience.
Yeah, and I want to tell everybody we have, as my people who've been listening to the show know that I do a pre-show interview with my guests, so we kind of know each other before. And yesterday was so much fun. I wish we had recorded that show. That is a show.
I know.
There was so much.
I know.
And because you think so deeply about those types of things that interest me most, and that is fun.
Yeah, so fun. I know. We were just riffing back and forth.
Riffing, that was it. We each had our axes up there on stage, and we were playing guitar. So you know what I was thinking, Becca? I was thinking I typically avoid corporate background stories, but yours is so fascinating. So I thought a great way to start our show today was to hear briefly about your highly successful corporate career, and then why you ultimately decided that was no longer the direction you wish to pursue in life. So first, tell us a bit about your story.
Yeah, sure. I mean, it's not an, as you were saying, it's not an unfamiliar story, right? It's doing all the societal shoulds, right? So I went to college. I started climbing, the ladder there, and my quest for, getting more was sort of insatiable. So I did, undergraduate, got more education, got, manager position, got senior manager, and then went back to school, got my MBA, and then next thing you know, I'm flying back and forth between Seattle and Midtown, once a month, our office there. I'm doing marketing and branding for Calvin Klein. I'm doubling my income. I've got the house with the gourmet kitchen and the Wolf stove and the car and the rentals and the wardrobe and the things. And on paper, I'm doing like all the things that should,
You did it. You made it. You did what you're supposed to be doing.
I did what I'm supposed to be doing. I'm like, I've got the things, I've got the image of everything, and I was, spoiler alert, miserable.
Oh my, were you really? You were miserable?
Yeah, at that point.
Did you always know that, or is that something you discovered along the way?
It's funny looking back, like, were there pings? Like, that's the thing I almost had to write It's Gonna Get Messy to see all the times that I was consciously ignoring my intuition, but at the time I didn't know it. Like, I was like, I'm just doing the things. I'm earning more, married, I got the house and the car and everything, and it was like 2018 as, my office is trying to go public for $5 billion, and the office is falling apart, my marriage is falling apart, my friend just took his life, my dad is dying, and all this is happening at once. And it's like I woke up one day and said, like, this is all wrong. This is all, everything that I've been doing, how I've been living, it's just wrong. It's all not what my inner knowing's been telling me, but I didn't know how to listen at that time.
That is something we're going to talk about. But you talk about the advantages of age. As we get older, we become more attuned to our gut, and more rather than trying to live socially acceptable lives. Now, I am quite the opposite. I went to college on a full athletic scholarship. I went to a well-known college, and in my third year, see, I went to college. I'm older. I got a few years on me. So I went to college. I started at UCLA in 1967 in the hippie movement. And so
Nice.
I had hair down to here and, just doing all that. I quit college in my third year just to become a full-time hippie. So I spent my entire decade of the 20s, instead of doing what you were doing and making a fortune, I
Yep.
was out doing sex and drugs and rock and roll. That was,
That's that's how you
and
do it,
so
Charlie.
So I really, and then I had a change. I had a change because I've never been good at following societal scripts. That is
Yeah.
just, I'm an adopted child. I came from a really broken home, so I had a lot of things that I just didn't buy into programs, and so
Right.
I went with my gut, but I still was trying to accomplish and produce, and so not all that different. I couldn't read my intuition. I couldn't read my gut to the level that I can read now. And I just don't know how strongly we can emphasize that to people, to listen to your gut, listen to your intuition.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Because we were talking about that and, talking about purpose, right? And, can you be 25, right? And find that inner knowing and that purpose, right? Because those are kind of intrinsically tied, right? Because, you know, we were talking about too how purpose is not this destination, right? It's not this thing, it's not this mountaintop. Like purpose isn't found, right? It's built. And the main way that you build purpose is through lived experience, right? So you find your purpose not by like reaching the thing, you find your purpose like day in and day out. And it's by becoming more you and more, growing into yourself. And you can do that at 25, right? You can do that at 25 if you have lived a life with enough contrast, right? So like you at 25, you're like, screw it. Like I don't want to climb a ladder. I'm going to go sex, drug, rock and roll, and you're going to have a bunch of contrast. You're going to have a bunch of lived experiences. And you're going to have a bunch of wrong turns. And through wrong turns, through the mess, right? Like those moments are when you get to know your deeper self. That's when you have the wrong moments that you say, oh, that's definitely not what I wanted, but you didn't know it, right? Until you took that wrong term or you had that mess or you had that uncomfortable situation. And so you can find your purpose at 25 if you've had a lot of lived experience, the courage to choose yourself. But the thing is, most of us don't have the courage to follow that inner knowing and ditch that societal script until we, get to a certain age and we're like, shit, like I gotta get going. And enough wrong turns where you're just so off track from that inner knowing, you're like, I need to drastically do something differently. And unfortunately, we're all living with that societal script that gets programmed into us since birth, right? Of like, these are all the shoulds that you should do. You should get married by this age. If you get chosen in marriage, you're worthy. If you earn this amount of money, if you have a home, if you have all these things, if you check all these boxes, then you're going to be enough. But so many people check all the boxes and then they're like, I'm still unhappy. And that's because purpose doesn't live in material things. It lives through being deeply in touch with what your inner knowing is.
You know, I found this quote by a philosopher I'm completely unfamiliar with, so I can't even tell you.
Yeah.
He writes like, 17th or 18th century philosopher, but his name is Fernando Pessoa. Are you familiar with him?
No.
I have no idea who he is, but he writes this. Your path is one of staying true to your own secret knowledge. I I like that. Your own secret knowledge. There's shit you know about yourself that no one's stuff you want people to know and other stuff that is never ever going to be anybody's business.
Right, right. Yeah, except I think in my book, I pretty much put it all out there for whatever reason. I'm just like, because I feel like the more some people prefer not to share those things. I feel like the more you share your mess, the more you share like your wrong turns that, because we all like to pretend on social media that everything is great and wonderful and fabulous and we're posting the photos of how happy everyone is. But a lot of times we're scared to share those, the fears, the doubts, the worries, the self-worth stuff. And so I think sometimes sharing those allows each other to get to that path and purpose a little bit faster. But to your point, the quote's amazing because, as we were talking about, there's never going to be another Charlie. Like
No.
your purpose in life and your lived experience and what lights you up and brings you joy in the history of time, space, and dimensions, if you believe in that sort of thing, there will never be another you. And so the problem is we all look externally for like, oh, what are they doing? And then we're like, okay, I'm gonna copy what that person is doing, but that doesn't work because your own inner knowing script of your path is yours and yours alone. And we lose that because we're constantly looking outside of ourselves for like what that purpose is, but the answer very much lies within.
Yeah, I so concur, but let me make one thing straight about me. I was a bit I am quite vulnerable. And so you want to know about me, I'm an open book. I'll tell you all about me. But there remains a secret self that
Yeah,
the only two people know about it. And that is my spiritual director and my psychiatrist. So those are
yeah,
the ones that get, some of the other stuff just isn't, it isn't helpful, for me to share to other people. To me, it's not helpful for me, at least, to share that
totally.
unless it's with the right person and I can feel somebody going through something very similar that I'm going through and they say, I get it. I've seen this movie. I lived this movie. But you're so right about sharing. You're so right about because that is part of that's part of meaning that you understand it. You've 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 identified it for yourself, and you're talking about you talk about identifying. Let me get it because I wrote it down somewhere. Let me see if I can get this. You talk about identity shifts that we need to include, and that we have societal scripts, but we need to do identity shifts that move from the societal script to our personal script. Becca, how in the world do we figure out what those are?
Yeah, yeah. Oh, isn't that the question?
That is the question. That's what I figured. I've asked that. My listeners are going to say, Charlie, another episode on purpose. Yes, because we still have not covered it. We still have
Yeah,
not hit the bottom line, and Becca's
yeah.
going to take us on a new path.
Well, as we spoke about yesterday, it's funny how unaware we all are of how much, that programming, even when you go right into the school system from a little kid of like, this is the history, this is, 2 + 2 is 4. This is like you get the image of what success is. And none of it talks about relationships, connectedness to your community, nature. Think about it. Like everything through school is about position, title, money, material, gaining of material goods. And so we're living by that script our whole lives, right? And there's so much fear when you deviate from that script because you just feel like, well, I'm the odd duck, like I'm the black sheep. and I'm not doing what everyone else around me is doing, so it must certainly be wrong. And so the biggest thing with purpose that we all fight is that we're constantly comparing against what other people are doing, what society is telling us we should do. And it's learning to finally shut off that script and tune into what lights you up. So it's turning off the external noise of what everything you see on TV, movies, rom-coms. I mean, they're like it's like a textbook. It's the same story, again and again and again. And it's following your own aliveness. It's following what lights you up. And that's the breadcrumb trail, not what you see in the media, not what you see in magazines, not what you see in, GQ and Cosmopolitan or whatever. So purpose grows when you follow like those honest, unperformed moments of following what truly lights you up. And that could be something as simple as, someone's going, to work every day. They have got, a new manager, another new manager. They're constantly in fear of being laid off. They're never seeing their family except for an hour in the evening, after dinner. And then there's really no time together whatsoever. And they say like, I don't want to live like this. And it's saying, all right, well, maybe I'm going to get rid of the white picket fence and I'm going to go live where the cost of living is extremely lower. I'm going to share, space with other families. We're going to pool resources, and I'm not going to work in that way. I'm not going to work to the point where I'm, grinding to the end, and then I'm 70, I'm 70, and I'm able to retire, and I can't even I don't even have the energy to go up the stairs. And I've never, I've not that all 70-year-olds don't have energy. I mean, you know what I'm saying? But we're grinding to that level of achievement, and then just to wake up to be like, okay, I got a bunch of stuff, but I haven't had time to live. And so purpose can be, it can be as simple as that. It can be as simple as saying okay, I want to live a life more balanced in nature. I want to, start my own small business. I want to travel more. I want to live in a different type of relationship. All sorts of different things. But the biggest thing is this: it comes down to you're told how you look, certain milestones in life you have to reach, and pairing off or having children, those are the things that you have to do, all these things. And if you don't do these things, there's something defective. And so many people want to live in other ways, have families in other ways, find purpose in other ways, besides those very specific boxes.
So agreed. You know what I have thought about it? It might have been Annie Lamott that in a lecture or in a book, I heard her say, and I think it was her, but I'm not sure, said, we make the mistake, in living in comparison. We see the people that have made it just in our social circles, the people that have made it. Like for me, there would be people at our church, that they are certain people that have looked like they've made it. But what she says we do is we compare our worst self with their best self. If we could compare worse selves, we would find out they're feeling exactly like we are. They're just, they're going through, people the societal scripts don't work.
Right.
They don't work. And you're right. Are you familiar with Alain de Botton, who wrote, he has The School of Life, he's called it. He has a book I have somewhere that just talks lessons, it's just lessons that they failed to teach us in school. Right. And it's lessons about relationships and emotions and how we deal with people. And we don't learn that in school. We learn all this data oriented. To me, it's almost like before they teach us anything, they should teach us to read poetry.
Exactly. Poetry, time in nature, connecting to those around you.
Yes.
It's funny how many celebrities and quote unquote people who have made it. Like before, it was pretty much taboo to say like, okay, I suffer from self-doubt and I worry about my worthiness and I'm miserable. But more and more and more people who are in those positions are saying like, I have made it. You know, I'm a rock star. I'm a multimillionaire. I just acquired a company for $300 million and I'm miserable. Like, so more and more are just saying like, okay, the definition of making it is not a condition of happiness and it's not a condition of feeling fulfilled. And I love that the people
What is a condition of happiness and being fulfilled?
being in alignment with your purpose. That's it. When you're living in a way that really like you've become the person that your little inner knowing, that little light that we all carry within us, you're living in a way that's in full alignment with that is fulfillment. That is living in alignment with what your purpose is. And that unfolds every day. But fulfillment is living from that space and not performing for what you think people outside of you think is making it. And it's connecting back to community, love, nature, and the simple things in life, the things that, bring us all joy. A beautiful sunset, a good meal.
I did quite a bit of work in Africa, drilling water wells in poor communities, and
Yeah.
we provided water for over 1 million people, like 1.5 million people. And so I would work in these poor communities, and when we're talking poverty, we're talking people that they don't have food, but the big thing they live by is community. If
Yeah.
I have food, I share it with my neighbor. Even if
Yeah.
I have a little food, I'm going to share a little food. And
Yeah.
these poor people are happier than the majority of people I find in where I live in the Orange County bubble in Southern California.
Yeah.
That they have, they're just comfortable beings living simple lives, loving each other, taking care of the community, loving their children.
Right. Right.
It's just,
Right. It's true. So part of the reason why, because I was in Portland before the pandemic, and part of the book is going from Portland, and I'm now in Baja California Sur, Mexico. Part of the reason I came back to Mexico is because so much of the societal script here is about community. It's about caring for your neighbor. It's about living to work and not working to live. When I came back to Portland and right after I ended up having to quarantine in Mexico because I got stranded abroad by my company. Fun. But after I spent time here alone and I went back in August of 2020, I got off the plane, I looked, and the city of Portland was a disaster. The downtown was boarded up. There was graffiti everywhere. There was homeless everywhere. There were people in the streets doing drugs, and I won't even tell you all the things. And I was like, this is not it. And in Mexico, I can tell you it's sunny right now. It's 82 degrees. And there's not a single homeless person in the street. And do you know why that is, Charlie?
I can guess, but you tell me.
Because there's a sense of community here. Like
Right.
everyone takes care of their neighbor. There is no white picket fence. Like the thing that was the American dream of the white picket fence is literally separating yourself from your neighbor. Literally, like people, when people live in neighborhoods where they don't know the person next door or 5 houses down, I've never had a conversation with those people.
I'm raising my hand.
It's insanity. It's insanity. I mean, and so here people will earn money literally selling popcorn on the street or twirling the baton at the stoplights. People will come up to people in a restaurant and say, "Hey, I'm selling gum." They'll interrupt people at the middle of a dinner, and you know what happens at that table? Everyone opens up their purse, they stop speaking, and they give that person a little bit of money. Do you know what happened if that happened in Orange County? Someone interrupted your dinner to sell gum?
You'd be arrested.
Yeah. And not only that, you'd be looked down upon horridly. You'd be like, why are you
Horribly.
interrupting our dinner? Why are you in this space? I'm having my dinner. I don't want anything to do with you. But like that person, how you treat that person is a reflection upon yourself. And that person is no less worthy of, money or fulfillment or like a good meal. They're not separate from you. And that's also where, purpose and that inner knowing remembrance is that we're all interconnected on a much deeper spiritual level and a creation level. And we've forgotten a lot of that. We're all like, my God is the right God. And don't get me
Oh my
started on
God.
that.
And tell me this,
Literally.
I'm writing a book on it right now.
Yeah.
On
Yeah.
that
That's what
very thing, I am, my personal theological basis is Christian. I'm very strongly Christian,
yeah.
but I do enough world travel. I've been maybe 40 countries,
Yeah.
but I have come to realize it is really, it is, it is a cultural belief, like it or not. People in the church, dogmatic in the church, and I went to seminary. I've studied Greek and Hebrew and studied the text very deeply, so I can go down deep and stay down long with them.
Yeah.
But it is, they don't want to admit it, but it is a cultural thing. And it does not fit, especially my time that I've been spending in the East, in Japan and Korea, South Korea, and
Yeah.
Taiwan and Hong Kong. It's a whole different way of thinking, and it's just, and that doesn't mean they're wrong. It means it's different. And I'm looking at, in this book, I'm looking at what's called, I've been told I shouldn't use these theological terms, but orthodoxy versus orthopraxy. And orthodoxy is doctrine. It's ortho doctrine. And orthopraxy is your practice. How do you live out your faith? How do you live that? And I've compared Islamic Sufis, Indian sadhus, and Buddhists from one sect of Buddhism that's called Mahayana Buddhism, and sort of their Buddha is Bodhisattva. And
Yeah.
I've compared, and I've studied. I have a conversational AI. It's not ChatGPT. It's one where I can have deep intellectual conversations with it. And so I said, what are the similarities between these four practices, these four beliefs, and their practices, their ortho practices, their
Right.
orthopraxy? And Becca, they're almost identical. They're almost identical. It's about knowing your inner self. It's about trusting your inner self. It's about the one thing that they all have in similar that's theological. It's a desire to become intimate with the divine.
Right.
However you define the divine, it is to become intimate with the divine. It
Right.
reminds me of that beautiful story. Do you remember the movie with Jodie Foster, Contact? When she made contact, and she was the scientist that was supposed to go. She's going to go to another dimension,
Yeah.
and she's going to get to see her father. And she
Yeah.
goes through this. They do this beautiful setting piece of as she's traveling, doing this time travel or dimension travel, all these colors and all this beauty. And her quote, I'll never forget her quote, she said, "They sent the wrong person. They should have sent a poet
Yeah.
who could describe, instead of a scientist, they should have
Yeah.
sent a poet." And that is what maybe we ought to strive more, and rather than being scientists and being post-enlightenment thinkers and trying to prove everything, is to be poets and to
Yeah.
enjoy and experience. I
Yeah.
just have an
Yeah.
adage, and I'll close this little diatribe with, I found this adage on my trip, and it said, I no longer take vacations to sightsee. Instead, I do the same time expenditure. I spend the same amount of time, but I don't take vacations. I take pilgrimages, not to sightsee, but to experience wonder. And if that's what we lived our life by, to
Right.
experience wonder, not to sightsee, not to go up the laundry list and step ladder, but to see wonder and to see, and for me, to see the divine and all of that is
Yeah,
beauty. And there's just beauty in the divine. Just, it's pure,
absolutely.
my book is called A History of Love.
Mm.
And it's just all about love in the world.
Right, absolutely. Oh man, Charlie, there's so many things that I want to say on that because first off, you gave me chills on the reference to Contact because that is the movie that I reference in my book of how my dad came to me because in that
Oh my,
moment,
I can see that.
the
Can you tell us that story? Do you mind telling us that story?
yeah, because I mean, like I'm
Is
like of
that too
all the movies.
private?
No, of all the, I mean, that's the whole I mean, that's the whole heart of the book, right? Is that moment, and I can't believe you chose that movie because that is the movie. Um,
And do you remember the line? They sent the wrong person. They should have sent a poet.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I will come back to that, but the same thing, well, actually that will tie in nicely because we were talking about spirituality, right? And finding purpose and like what is the meaning of all this and how do we learn to become and live in a way that is fulfilling, right? Because obviously the money and the stuff is not doing it, right? So we're realizing connection to each other, which is ultimately the connection to the divine, because we all come from that same divine source. And I didn't know this as I left corporate, as I got stranded in Mexico, as everything fell apart and, lost job, country, marriage, friend to suicide, and then my dad passes away.
Oh my goodness. That's
Yeah, but sometimes the universe gives you a nice firm, poof, because you're just not getting it. And I was so off from my purpose, and it took that moment, right? So it took that moment of my father, who I love dearly, passing to just absolutely crack me open. And the month before he passed away, under the full moon by the ocean here in Mexico, I just said, you know when he's ready, please take him because he was suffering. And
right.
the next morning, I got the call that he had passed away, and the first thing. And obviously, all the things, ensue from that, coming back north and everything else, and dealing with the grief. And ultimately, I stayed back in the States, Wisconsin, from where I'm from, but I had to come back to Mexico. I don't know why. I was like, I just have to get back to Mexico. I have to get back to the beach. I have to get back to the ocean, and just, it's where it was really helping me heal. And a month after he passed away, I'm in the same spot on this like lovely kind of curved beach with a little bit of a mountain in the distance. And again, I looked at the full moon and I'm just like, Dad, if you're out there, show me. And he came to me. He came to me, and I literally felt his presence. I felt his touch. And just like in the movie Contact, I'm out of my body. I'm out of this realm, and we are gold light, and we are dancing. And I am in the place we all come from and where we all go to, where it's just infinite, infinite love, and there is no time, space, anything, and all is, and everything is perfect and joy and amazing. And he's gold light and I'm gold light, and I'm like, Dad, is this what we are? And he's like, yes, isn't it beautiful? And I'm like, can I stay? And, in that moment, I came right back into, my body. And I'm like, I mean, of course I'm sobbing. Of course I can't believe this has happened. I can't, physically, my ears are ringing, and I'm like, I can't quite hear or see for a little bit. I'm like, what is happening? And it's that moment that changed, obviously, my life forever, but that's where I went on the path to figure out the divine. And that's through a whole series of, messes and learning. But what you're saying, and what we all need to remember, is that, religions are just made up, brands of different things that are saying the exact same thing, and every single one of them is right, but they're made to divide us. They're made to divide us as a society and forget our oneness of where we all come from, which is the same divine spark with, I know now from my experience, with 100% certainty. And I feel like my purpose is just helping people remember that. Helping
Yeah. You
remember
know,
that divine.
the only thing I might alter a little bit in that, I don't think the ideology was made to divide us. I think the people, the religious people that took charge of that, divide us. Say, if you don't
That's a
believe
good,
that. But I
yeah,
don't, I think, the difference between ideas or the way the divine has come to you is intended for division. I think it's
right,
intended for unity,
right,
but the preachers of the world
right,
want exclusivism
right.
instead of inclusivism.
Exactly. That's a great point. Yeah, monotheism of like, oh, I have found the correct God, and like your God is not correct. It's like, no, that's
It's all
that's
bullshit.
that's
Yeah.
such bullshit. It's complete bullshit. And those people who want power to say, I'm the right one, this is the chosen path. Yeah, that's the bullshit piece. Because you're right, all of them are expression. They're all the ways that they have found the divine, and that's beautiful. But it's where we divide and say, like, you or I are, one of us is worthy of going to heaven and one of us is not. That's just, what kind of God would say that? What kind of
Yeah.
God would say, you, my beautiful creation, you are going to come, but you can't? It's,
For me, they're very cultural and
yeah,
they're designed. Buddhism is designed for the East.
right,
Islam is designed for the Persian area.
right,
Christianity, although it came from the East, is designed now, has become designed for the West.
right.
And so there's cultural activities in there that are coming to fruition, but the
Yeah,
heart of
yeah,
the heart of it is the heart of it is, you use the word, the heart is love.
right.
The heart is love. I took
It
Oh no,
is.
you're going to say something. Go ahead. I want to hear what you're
Well,
going to say.
yeah, no, I mean, the heart of it is love. And you're right, that culture, those cultural, but unfortunately they've become those cultural divides, right? And
They
that's
have.
what
They
and
have.
that's what someone looks at someone else, oh, those are your beliefs. Well, then we're just not gonna see eye to eye, are we? Because you believe in this and I believe in this. But again, it's like 18 layers of different, definitions and beliefs and scripts that are keeping us from that one true love knowing. And I think it's a beautiful time though, because so many people I think are remembering this and choosing differently, right? Choosing to see others with a lot more love and openness instead of separateness and division. Because I don't think there's like really any other way at this point.
I had a realization. I had a realization in Hong Kong, and it was walking the shopping streets. My wife likes to shop, and I am not one saying this is a male thing or this is a female thing. I don't believe in those categories. Although
Yeah.
I think shopping falls into that category. I hate to say it, but it is much more of a woman thing than it is a man thing. But I go along. I will go with her and I will support her. And I have a good eye if she's buying clothes. I have a good eye for clothes. So,
Yeah.
I'll say right away, that's it, buy that. And she'll say,
Yeah.
well, I need to look around. And, 20 minutes later, she comes back and buys what I said we should have bought in the first 2 minutes.
Right.
But I made this during shopping. I made this observation that our cultures are so different, and then I just started thinking of cultures internationally and how different we are, and the route to relationship can be fraught with a lot of crooked lines, following these different cultural ways. Except for one thing, Becca, There is one thing that's a straight line that everybody gets. I've yet to see a culture that does not honor this one line, and that is kindness. Kindness. I see people responding to kindness no matter the culture. A smile in the East. I love the bow when you meet somebody or do something, or for a
Yeah.
number of different reasons. I love that. And that's just expressions of kindness. But it's a
Yeah.
straight line. It's a straight line. And it is the one thing that crosses all religions, all cultures, crosses everything. And I've
Yeah.
not gone public with this yet, so I'm curious what you think about that. I just wrote a blog on it, but that kindness
Yeah.
is universal. But
Yeah.
what do you think
Absolutely.
about that?
I mean, absolutely. I mean, absolutely, because kindness is just a cousin of love, you know? Kindness in its essence is rooted in love. And
It
another
is.
another human, whether you're using, language or not, when someone does that bow or opens the door for you or gives you a smile, there's a there's an energetic frequency to that, right? And it's unmistakable. And that frequency, the energy of that act, of that kindness is love. And we know that. We know that innately, and we don't have to remember it. We don't have to be societally programmed for that. When a baby comes into the world and you smile at it and it giggles and you giggle back, no one has to explain that to you.
Yeah, precisely,
No one
precisely.
has to say, but no one, that baby though, who's smiling and laughing at you, does not know, like, well, if you're not married by 30, baby, you're not good enough. Oh, and baby, if you weigh like a little bit over 150, baby, no, like, no, you're not worthy, baby. And oh, if you don't own a home, baby, like, none of these things occur to the baby. These are all programmed into the baby. The baby comes in knowing full well and good that they are love, that other humans are love, and it's only programmed in that anything else is, not worthy in them, because they come in completely knowing that out of the gate.
Yeah, and then part of that, when we appreciate those unique gifts of that baby, as that baby grows into childhood and and advanced childhood and adulthood, they become appreciated for who they are. And if they are different, God bless the moms and dads that appreciate the different children, the
Yeah,
ones who have gifts that are not socially on the social high end chart, but
yeah,
they are uniquely gifted, and those are where you find your great artists.
right.
The difference makers in the world are appreciated for their uniqueness, but they need to be appreciated. If they're not
Yeah,
appreciated, they can lose that back, and they can fall into the societal
yeah, yeah,
stipulations.
yeah. But you're describing every single human on the planet.
Exactly.
Exactly.
You know what, buddy? We could we could go on, but I'm thinking we just kind of covered what we need to cover. You are amazing. I I
Oh, I
I
feel the
wish
same
I
about
wish
you.
you lived in Orange County or I lived in Mexico, and we could hang out and you could drink margaritas and I would drink sparkling water, since I'm an alcoholic and not allowed to drink. Although a margarita sounds great, but it's been several years. But it would
Yeah.
be fun chatting. We could
Oh
have
my
deep
gosh.
deep
Absolutely.
chats.
Absolutely. But I mean, I, yeah. I mean, that is it though, right? Every single one of us is that artist. Every single one of us is in that process of remembering that are each unique, because you are an artist. I'm an artist. Every person listening has their own unique, beautiful qualities. And I think that's what we're all remembering. So, well, luckily there's planes, Charlie. You can always pop down here and I can always pop up there. It's not like you're in, Fiji or something.
Yeah, it's not like my Asia trip that today's the first day I got back 3 days ago, and today's the first day I have felt remotely okay.
Yeah, Asia coming
It's a
back this way.
17 hour time difference, and
Yeah,
typically I'm not impacted by jet lag, but this one
Asia's
got me.
Asia's brutal. Yeah, it took me 3 days. So you're you're on the end of it.
I'm on the end of it.
Yeah.
Um, Becca Eve Young, you
Yeah.
are the best. And I have written at the notes. I want to tell everybody now. Your book, it's going to get messy. Buy your book. It is really worthy. It is, and I'm not in the habit of recommending a whole lot of books like that, but yours is special, and I think hearing it come from the author makes it even more special.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thanks, I really appreciate it. It the contact piece though too. There's a part in the end where, yeah, yeah. It's a that movie is a precious part of that story and how it's kind of was always meant to be.
Is it that? What a connection! What a
Yeah,
connection!
yeah.
Okay, let me close this out. Then hang on, I want to talk to you after the show. But I want to thank everybody for tuning into this next chapter with Charlie and our very special guest, Becca E. Young. And until next, this is Charlie Hedges signing off. Bye for now.